Hello everyone, welcome back to Social Club for the final time this week. I'm joined by Paul and by Ped to discuss the Champions League, which returns, and obviously we're all the perfect people to be discussing this topic. We do have a little help in the video for Sam Peoples from United People's TV, which we'll come to in a moment, and Flav as well. But we will start with Manchester United. Looking at some of the fixtures, it looks trickier for some teams than it does for others, and I think Man United are the ones that I think it falls quite favourably for, Ped, if I'm perfectly honest.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, Champions League wise, yeah. I mean, it's a decent squad. Benfica, Basel, not the.
They should be expect. I mean,
Yeah.
they'll expect to get out that group. But I think just in terms of how the fixtures fall, I mean, they've got a couple of tricky ones. They've got us away, followed by Benfica, which is obviously that's pretty decent. But and then they've got Spurs at home, followed by Benfica, followed by Chelsea's a pretty tasty run.
That'll be a tough week. Yeah, and I think it's always about who you follow rather than who you play beforehand. And I think Man United are having to play. They play Huddersfield after the Champions League game. And I think, but then they've got to go to Stamford Bridge after another one. So I think it's horses for courses, isn't it? The thing about the Premier League now is you look at the games at the moment. I mean, look at Huddersfield. You look at Huddersfield now and go, Huddersfield away. That suddenly looks a tricky game. Yeah. So I wouldn't expect any of them to be relishing any period of time. But that's what, if you're in the Champions League, you're supposed to have a good squad. Yeah. You're supposed to have a team that compete with all teams. And I would argue that maybe some of those Premier League games will be tougher than Champions League games.
Interesting. So we have got Sam from United People's TV, who's been kind of sending us a little video of his thoughts on United's Champions League possibilities.
Manchester United back in the Champions League, but how are we going to get on in Europe's elite competition this year? Let's be honest, we should be getting out of that group. We've got Benfica, Basel and CSKA Moscow. It could have been a hell of a lot harder. But hopefully Man United don't get complacent and we actually did play like we should in Europe's elite competition. For me, I'm hoping for us to get to the quarterfinal. If we can get to the quarterfinal this year, I'll consider it a success. Jose Mourinho has pedigree in the competition, won it with Porto, won it with Inter Milan. He knows what he is doing. This Manchester United squad looks capable of getting out of the group stage, but once we come up against the likes of Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, I'm not sure how we're going to fare. So for me, if we get to the quarterfinal, I will consider this year a success in the Champions League for Man United.
Thank you very much, Sam. Of course, you can subscribe to United People's TV if you haven't done so already by clicking on a thing that lets you subscribe. The web address bar with United People's TV. Anyway, Paul, yeah, look, Sam's reasonably confident there. He's already talking about getting to the quarters and what have you. I think it's a very realistic possibility. They've started the season great. We've got a comment here from Positive Comments who says Mourinho's winning the thing. Second season for Mourinho, he's always likely to put in a good shift, and he's got the pedigree at European level as well.
Yeah, he knows how to win games. Do you know what I mean? He done it last year at the Europa League. They carried them through that. Even with the squad he had, it wasn't that great. They've added this year. They've added quality in the positions they needed more so than anywhere. Mourinho knows what he's doing. I do see them getting out of the group, whereas after that, I don't know how far they go. I would agree with Ped in terms of their fixtures are probably tougher in the Premier League than they would be in the Champions League.
Yeah. Is there anyone, Ped, do you think that stands out from having a cursory glance through the fixtures who you think might have a tricky time of it? Chelsea have got they've got a couple of little moments, I think, haven't they, where it looks a little bit sticky for them. Like early on, they've got that run of Atletico away, City at home, and then Palace away. Particularly could be the Hodges crowning achievements in that game as well.
To be honest, though, you look at those games in the Champions League game, it's all very comfortable, isn't it? It's better, even the Champions League game, going to a big city against a big team. Private jet in, private jet out, nice hotels, nice ground. It doesn't feel like there's any uncomfort there. You go in to play your game, and you look at some of the Europa League games. Let's say the places you've got to go to and how you get there, and the conditions of the stadiums and the pitches. But when you're in the Champions League, you just feel like everything is the elite, and there shouldn't be any excuses.
Yeah, but that's all. Yeah, that's fine. But it's more. It's this notion of having to compete, and this is the thing. It's all well and good, I think, when you've got there's that week where they play Watford, Bournemouth, then Roma.
Away.
See, but
Home away.
I can't feel like sorry for them. Or,
No, but it's not about feeling sorry, is it? It's about whether they're equipped to be able to handle that.
This is where going back to Mourinho. This is where he's a great manager, because he knows how to shuffle the pack and whether to sacrifice a certain game. I know you can't sacrifice too many games, but I think that's what makes a good manager, having the ability to do that. And it'll be interesting to see whether Conte can do that for Chelsea, or whether he's got a big enough squad. Because we come into a season, we look at our squads and we'll go, who's going to play? What's our best starting 11? And suddenly you get a run of fixtures like that where best starting 11 don't count for anything.
Yeah.
You suddenly get those suspensions. You might get a suspension in the Premier League, but that frees a player up that can play, in your Champions League for the next couple of weeks. Guaranteed, he'll be fresh. And those things fall sometimes. It's funny. It's funny the way it all drops. But a good manager should be able to navigate through those games. And I look at what Chelsea have bought, and they've gone very strong in centre midfield. The likes of Drinkwater, and people look at that and go, where will he play? But if you've got Drinkwater coming into a Premier League game on a Saturday after a Wednesday in the Champions League where he hasn't played, well, maybe he's not absolutely the top level to play in that game.
Yeah.
That's where, and obviously Conte, he feels that centre midfield is his big part of where he plays. Whereas you look at Man United, the way they play, they've overloaded almost in the attacking striking areas, very obviously the wide, because he knows that he'll throw everything at those games with those players, and then when it comes to the next games, he's got a Rashford now, he's got a Martial.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's having the players in the right areas.
Honestly, I mean, Paul, if you had to pick one of the English teams to go furthest in this competition, who are you backing?
I'd probably go with Man City.
Yeah.
Just with the squad they have, in terms they pretty much have a backup player for every position now. But I was going to say about Chelsea and Atletico Madrid. It would depend on which Atletico team turns up, because, as you know, in the last couple of years, well, maybe not last season, but before that, Atletico were getting to finals, and they were getting to semi-finals as well. They were a very hard team to beat. Then there's the whole Diego Costa stuff going on there too.
Yeah.
And then they have to go to Man City then, which, no one's fine. Like, even we went there and played them with 10 men, and even in the second half they were coming on making us retreat, and we were a player down and stuff.
Yeah.
City are looking very strong. The next two games for Chelsea, it'd be interesting to see how they handle them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think City, it looks pretty good for City, if I'm honest. And again, it's because we're talking about this, and we'll contextualise all this with Spurs in a moment, which I think will make this all make a bit more sense. But, you got Shakhtar at home, then Chelsea away, Stoke at home, Napoli. I think it's a good balance, I think, for most of the teams in the Champions League. Similarly, Liverpool have got, having caught the back of City to Sevilla, that's one of our toughest little back-to-backs. If Liverpool can get 3 points against Sevilla at home on Wednesday, it puts them in very good footing. Now, let's just quickly have a look at Spurs then, and we've got Flav queued up in a moment. But yeah, Spurs' run is right here, sheet of paper. So get on this. This is a run from the 17th of October till the 21st of November. Real Madrid away, Liverpool at home, Man United away, Real Madrid at home, Palace at home, Arsenal away, Borussia Dortmund away. That is a twat of a run of fixtures. And before we talk about it, let's see what Flav from Ball Street and the Fighting Cock thinks about their chances in the Champions League this season.
Will the Champions League ruin Tottenham's season? No, I don't think it will. No one expects Tottenham to get out of this group at all. We've got a group of death. Real Madrid, obviously amazing. Borussia Dortmund started the season well. They're probably going to pump us as well. And then we've got Apoel, who everyone will smash. So it's not really an advantage. But because no one expects Spurs to get out, I think that's actually going to benefit us massively. Because if we get a result against Dortmund, then people will go, hello, what's going on over there then? Tottenham are on the up. And if we get pumped by them, then that's what everyone expects anyway, so it doesn't matter. The fact is, as well, as if you go out early, the extra games that you don't have to play. So I'm not really that bothered, to be honest. Like if we go out, then we go out. We've got a better chance of qualifying next year. If we go on a run, then everyone's going to be happy and that'll serve us better in the league. Either way, it's a win-win.
Hey, there you go. Thanks very much for that, Flav. Wonderful, wonderful man. Before we get into our thoughts on this, Ross, you got a few comments from Spurs fans?
Yeah, Nick, Tottenham Hotspur FC says he thinks they'll be out by November and he thinks City will go the furthest. Andrew James says he thinks Spurs' biggest issue is expecting their style, which is so suited to the beating Premier League teams, to work against playing continental sides.
It's interesting. There's a comment here actually from Josh Pavitt, a Spurs fan. I will hands down admit that we will struggle in every competition this year and next year. We're lacking in signings. We're playing in a new ground 2 years in a row. We're fucked. Wow.
I think Spurs fans are being absolute dicks there. I honestly, after watching them on Saturday and being so impressed by them, I think they're selling themselves very, very short. I don't think it's as bad a group as it looks on paper. I think Dortmund, they can beat home and away. I really do. Real Madrid, yes, will be tricky. But at home, they've got a chance to beat them. And I think if they can get the better of Dortmund, then that should set them up to qualify out the group.
But are they just competing with Dortmund for second place in this group?
Pretty much. Is there a better team than Real Madrid out there at the moment? Like, let's be honest.
Well, there's about 8 in the Liga, but that's a different.
But they'll have Ronaldo back. I just think I think at Spurs, what they're going to have to start doing as fans is stop worrying about. You know, they've obviously still got a little bit of an issue with Arsenal and being the better team. I'd look past that now. You're in the Champions League. Yeah. Arsenal are not. And I think Dortmund are not a massively great side. I mean, I know last season they had the complications of what happened with the bus, but they were completely demolished by Monaco. And I just think that with a bit more belief, I know the Wembley factor is going to go against them, but you'd like to think by the time 17th of October rolls around when they play Real Madrid, well, that'll be away anyway, but certainly when they play
the 22nd of October.
1st of November, when they play Real Madrid at home, that they'll have had enough time to settle in to Wembley.
Could be all done and dusted by then, though, mate.
I don't believe it. I think they've got to have a little bit more belief. They're a good side, a very good side, and they've bought a striker to take, give them an extra dimension. I think, and I think they've just got to start believing in themselves a little bit.
I get what Flav's saying. They're Paul in that. I think that it's almost like the damned if they do, damned if they don't kind of thing. And they're actually in an interesting situation because everyone does expect them to get battered in this group. So if they're able to start picking up points, if they do get a win over Dortmund and they do make they do shock a team, and they've more than got the capability to beat any of these teams in this group because they're a very, very good team. They have kind of got the best of both worlds to some extent. Big games, big pressure, but also it's eased because maybe people don't expect them to get results.
I just don't see what the whole doom and gloom is towards Spurs, like from their own fans. Like they're going out, they smashed us the weekend. They weren't even that good. It's just they're clinical. Yeah. They're just very clinical. With Kane, they've got obviously. Well, I would class him as the best striker in the Premier League. And then you got Eriksen, who's performing as probably the best number 10 at the moment in the league. And last season he was up there as well. Yeah. I just think that I think they can go. I don't think they get results in Madrid. I think they could potentially get a result at home against Real Madrid, and I think they could beat Dortmund home and away.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing for me that winds me up about it is this notion of, well, if we go out early, it's going to make qualification for next year easier. What's the point in qualifying a game for next year?
Stop being miserable bastards and embrace it. Tottenham are going places. They've got a good manager. They've got a good squad. They in terms of football, they can go from 4 at the back to 3 at the back seamlessly by the looks of it now. Yeah. They've brought really good personnel in. Have a go, do you know what I mean? And shut up Arsenal's arses.
Do you think maybe they're just still not used to the fact that they're actually better than Arsenal now?
I think that's it. I think there's an inferiority complex. You wouldn't believe it though, but it's daft. And you guys have finished above us a few times in recent years, so it's not the same. But if you guys made it into the Champions League group stage and we were in the Europa League, there would be a little part of you'd be like, is someone going to come and take this all away from us? You know what I mean?
But it's not just that though. That can happen. But Tottenham are genuinely a good football team, like a really good football team, and they've got sort of all the assets to get better and better. They're going into a really good, new stadium. The only thing they've got hanging over them is this sort of Wembley thing, and I just think they've got to embrace it all because we've seen it with Man City. Their fans have held them back in the last few years, not embracing the Champions League, whereas the club been saying, "Fucking hell, look what we've got. We've got all the money in the world." We've got a great stadium. We've got the whole Etihad campus and all this, the academy, we've got everything to in that direction. Start coming with us.
Yeah.
Believe in what the project that we're doing. Now, I don't mean that in terms of like not filling the ground, because that's economics. That can happen. Get the price to suit the fans. But the fans just always seem to have this like, it's the Champions League. We're not Champions League team, and that kind of thing.
Right.
So
I
I
was just about to comment that you've been vociferously positive about 2 football teams there, other than your own. And then
we're
you
just
just, have
shite,
to you just have to ruin it with a man.
I think that was
with
a really good
accent.
Manc accent. But I think Tottenham fans have to do that, though. Sorry, you have to get into it. It's footy.
I'll stop you. Ross, what have you got for us?
Matt Maguire says Real Madrid have just drawn with Valencia and Levante. They're not invincible, and also they haven't got Benzema for 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, this is true. The Real Sociedad are second in La Liga at the moment. You know what I mean? The Real Madrid are not flying flying high. In fact, Sevilla, they're the ones to watch out for. Third. After 3 games.
You know all about them.
Absolutely. Only too well, my friend. We've got a question here, actually. Just I think it's a little bit of an aside, but it might follow up on some of Sam's stuff. Again, from Positive Comments, who's been bang on the comments today. How does Ped feel Lukaku performing against European royalty like Munich and Madrid?
He'll do very well against them, because he's a goal scorer. Lukaku is what he is. He's a goal scorer, and you give him service, he'll put the ball in the back of the net. Okay, he won't put everyone away like we've seen at the weekend. He had a great chance to win the game, and he put it over. But I think the more he plays in the Champions League, the better he'll get. And it's how they handle him. He's not a conventional striker you'd see in Europe, I don't think, anymore. A big, strong, physical. Someone just mentioned Benzema there. He goes very much under the radar at Real Madrid, but his record is brilliant.
Yeah.
If he just had a better record videotaping young ladies, then maybe people think more of him.
Interesting. Moving on. Comments then from Private Minion 999. Please look at my comments and discuss it. I'll do you one better. I've even read it out, but I will not be discussing it. Ross, have you got any more comments for us? You've got 7,000 comments, and your only job is to find a couple and read them out, and you've got nothing.
On Spurs, or just anyone in general?
Just anyone, mate. Give us what you got.
Queen Stamford said before, actually, on Chelsea, that with the mix they've got in between Premier League and Champions League game, the squad's too thin to go far in Champions League.
That's going to be the interesting thing, isn't it? I think they're okay. I'm just not sure. I think the only teams who are genuinely going to be capable of properly competing on 2 fronts, it's definitely Man City, because look how many players they've got. Look at them. It's ridiculous. Raheem Sterling suspended for the weekend, not even involved, just bring Sané off the bench. They've decided to play Jesus and Aguero up front for shits and giggles, whereas they could just alternate them if they wanted to and still be phenomenal. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm not sure whether United have got the depth, but I think they've got just about enough, and with Mourinho's pragmatism, I think they could.
I think it goes back to something I was saying before. It goes back to having strength in an area that you feel is most important to you. And I think Conte would be quite happy with the squad size he's got, because I don't think he's that bothered about having a big squad. It's about having. He's got powerhouses in centre midfield. Man United have got wide players. Man City have got a million little players who will boss on the ball. It's how you play and how those players suit you. Someone like Man United, who've got Lukaku, who could effectively play every game this season for him, because he's just that that kind of player.
You're right. It's kind of Liverpool did in the window, was instead of sorting the defence out, which would have been the logical thing, is just get more attacking players to do more of what you do in an attacking sense. And I wonder whether we talked about this around Liverpool, whether Salah being withdrawn at half time was very much if we lose him as well as Mane, then we're in deep shit, because that's what our team's entirely based around. But I don't know, from a Liverpool perspective, how Liverpool fare in this, I think Sevilla on Wednesday will be a big indicator for us. That's our, on paper, toughest of the 3 home games. Get a positive foot forward. I think this is true for a lot of these teams. Get 3 points on that table. Prove to your fans, like Spurs and us in particular, need to show that we're capable of being at that level. And if they do, then I think they're the teams that could surprise us.
There's nothing worse than any group-based thing when you're playing catch-up, and then you look at the fixtures and go, we have to win that, we have to win that, we have to.
And then and that's the problem, you've got must-win Premier League games in between all that as well. That's when it gets difficult. And that's why I think maybe the balance fits a Chelsea, a City, or a Man United quite nicely in that regard, and then the rest will depend on
it's more sort of signings from Liverpool's perspective. There's not a lot of Champions League signings in there, do you know what I mean? Like Robertson, he's all well and good for the Premier League, but he's not been tested.
No, it's absolutely right.
Players like that.
And our other option, Alberto Moreno, basically cost us the Europa League final.
It's the same thing with Spurs.
Glorious.
And their squad, their fans were complaining that they weren't getting enough players in, but they didn't sell anyone. They kept all their players and they've added in players in now.
Can an English club win the Champions League this season? Paul?
I don't think so. I think if anyone's going to come close to it, it'll be Man City. I think what kills English clubs off is the fact that other leagues get that break. And
I think there's that, and I also think how competitive the Premier League is. And I don't mean that because I don't mean there's 20 amazing teams. Anyone can beat anyone. I mean,
I know what you mean.
that there's 7 teams now fighting for 4 places, and you can't take your eyes off the league for a second.
If someone does win it, they won't be in the top 4 of the Premier League. I've said this before. I just don't think it's possible now to compete on both fronts, unless you get very, very fortunate. I just don't think it's possible anymore. There's just, like Paul's saying, you've got to make that decision on before a game and say what are we going for. And it is ridiculous saying about Spurs fans saying, well, we might as well go out early so we can be back in it next year. But that mindset goes on quite a lot.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? That's the shame about it. I don't see the point. And look, because it all exists in theory at the moment, because we've not kicked a ball in the proper Champions League.
I love football in theory. It's amazing.
Exactly, it's the boss. But this is the best time to be a fan when it hasn't properly started, when you can dream.
Football's amazing.
And I see no point in thinking that you can't go all the way in every competition, because I think everyone wants you to buy into that conceit, and they're probably right, because there's loads of evidence to suggest that outsiders don't come in and really win things very often. And I can't be asked bringing it up. Let's not talk about Leicester again, because I'm bored to death of that. But what's the point? You get through your group no matter what, and then it's just about masterminding occasional away victories.
It's exciting. You got more games to look forward to now. You got 1 or 2. If you're in Europe, you got 2 a week.
Yeah. When you get beat at the weekend, the next game's...
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's the way I think about things.
Just yourself down and look forward to another game very sharpishly afterwards. Okay, thank you, lads. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you in. Subscribe to Toffee TV, of course. Irish Football Fan TV, brand new channel coming in your face. Not literally.
Even if you're not Irish, subscribe.
Get onto it, obviously. Support growing YouTube channels as well. Again, I've just got about 22,000 on my channel, which is brilliant. If you like me, for whatever reason that might be, subscribe to Mate TV as well, or Redmen TV. And of course, subscribe to Ball Street. I want to get to 100,000 as quick as possible, and you should too if you like this channel, so let's make it a thing. Thanks for watching. If you haven't checked out the other social clubs, do, and we'll see you back here next week.